Before we start, the name is at the top of the screen. The story opens with someone telling Masumi that her performance feels empty, there is nothing in it. They ask her why she even plays the violin when there are no feelings behind her music. Masumi knows this kind of life cannot last forever, but before she can respond, someone calls out to her. She turns to see Mr. Tabata, who thanks her once again for her lovely performance that day. He apologizes, as always, that they cannot pay her more than a small token, but Masumi smiles and says she is simply grateful to have a place where she is allowed to play. Mr. Tabata tells her that the whole place feels brighter because of her music. He wonders aloud why someone so talented does not try to become a professional. Masumi laughs softly, saying that such a dream is far too much for her. Yet, as she leaves the hall, his words linger in her mind: why not become a pro? She remembers how she once truly loved the violin, back on the day her mother gave her her first instrument. From the moment she held it, she fell completely in love. She practiced every single day, and back then, playing the violin was nothing but pure joy. She recalls the time when her childhood friend used to cheer for her and clap after every piece, telling her she was amazing. They used to play together all the time, and Masumi always looked forward to those moments. She loved her friend deeply. But then came the day when she was told that her friend had only a few months left to live. Masumi could not believe it. They had just made it into tomorrow's competition, and her friend insisted that they would still go. It would be their last performance together. Her friend asked her to play seriously, not to hold back for her sake. She loved Masumi's music and wanted to face her at her very best. But Masumi could not stop thinking that they had always played together. If her friend was gone, who was she supposed to play for? Still, she knew she had to perform. Yet, on the day of the competition, she could not play at her full strength. Ever since that day, she has not been able to play the same way again. Her friend passed away soon after, and Masumi gave up on becoming a professional musician. Now, playing the violin is only a side job at best. After college, she found work but quit almost right away. Now, nearly 30, she drifts without direction. Society feels terrifying to her. It takes only a second to fall off track. She asks herself what she is even living for anymore. As she walks through the streets, she hears someone selling Christmas cakes. It is almost Christmas. Everyone else is probably celebrating, surrounded by family or partners, while she wanders alone. Alone again this year, no friends, no partner, no family. Masumi feels as though time stopped for her the day her friend died. She wonders if there is truly anything left that she needs to do. Then, suddenly, as she descends the station stairs, her foot slips. She falls. When she opens her eyes, she finds herself lying in a strange, eerie place. Confused, she remembers falling on the station stairs and a chilling thought crosses her mind. Does this mean she's dead now? She looks around nervously, realizing that her wallet, phone, and bag are all gone. Everything she owned has vanished except her violin. It lies beside her, untouched, perfectly intact. Why, she wonders, is the violin the only thing that remains? As she stands there in confusion, a man's voice calls out to her. He seems to be a soldier or perhaps something else entirely. He asks if she's a musician too, remarking that if she's ended up in this place, she must have some skill. But then he scolds her, saying she's too careless, wandering around like this. Because of her, they have been spotted. Masumi cannot make sense of his words. What is he even talking about? Before she can ask, he looks at the violin in her hands and demands that she play anything, as long as she can make sound. They're running out of strength, he says, barely holding off the first wave. Completely overwhelmed, Masumi shouts, demanding to know what is going on. Then she hears a strange, unsettling noise in the distance. The man curses under his breath. It seems they have found them. He starts running, but Masumi calls after him, asking if he even knows where they are. He doesn't respond, vanishing into the darkness and leaving her completely lost. Moments later, a man descends swiftly, glaring at her. He demands to know who she is and what she's doing there. Masumi, startled, tells him that she should be the one asking that question. But he cuts her off, asking sharply if she's a Laotian spy. She insists she's not. He narrows his eyes and gestures toward the case she's holding, asking her to explain what's inside. When she hesitates, he warns her that if she doesn't cooperate, they'll confirm it themselves, and if she resists, he won't hesitate to use force. The scene shifts to a grand mansion. Lord Ark listens as his soldiers report that they've captured a spy. It's Masumi tied up and terrified. The soldiers tells Lord Ark that she tried sneaking into their central camp. Ark, calm but stern, remarks that so this is the one who dared to infiltrate the Night Order's grounds. Masumi, despite her fear, is taken aback by the words Night Order. There's a Night Order in the afterlife? The soldier explains that she had a suspicious-looking box, though it didn't appear to be a weapon. Masumi finally blurts out, exasperated, that it's not a weapon at all. What, have they never seen a violin before? And to just let her go, the knight points out that it is fine, they can use a truth circle. Her true identity will reveal itself instantly. The magic circle begins to glow, yet her information, which should be appearing in text, remains blank. There is nothing. Hearing this, Ark smirks, finding the situation intriguing. She is clearly under a powerful blessing. He tells his man that he will handle her himself, and the subordinate is dismissed. After the man leaves, Ark scoffs at the sight before him evading the truth circle. Impressive. She looks completely clueless, perhaps she is a top-tier spy. Masumi glares in frustration, insisting that she has already said she isn't a spy. Ark, unmoved, questions how she even got in. There should have been guards. She stammers that she doesn't know. One moment she was elsewhere, and suddenly, she found herself here. Ark narrows his eyes, asking if she knows his name. She answers honestly that she doesn't. He introduces himself as Arkrastave Albus Canova. Masumi stands confused, but Ark realizes something. If someone had cloaked her, his name should have broken that spell. Masumi, still tense, mutters in disbelief. What is this? A spy test? A glowing floor? None of this feels like the afterlife. It feels like another world entirely. Ark observes her closely and mentions that he will have to check it himself. Without hesitation, he jumps onto her, telling her not to move. Masumi struggles, demanding that he let her go, but Ark warns that if she is going to resist, she should do it for real. Someone desperate to escape would fight with everything they have. Masumi freezes, realizing that if she lashes out, she could injure her hand. Ark's gaze shifts toward the violin beside her. He leans closer, inspecting it. For a moment, he wonders if this delicate object might be a hidden weapon. Yet as he looks more closely, he notices its fine craftsmanship and unusual shape. Masumi's voice trembles as she pleads for him to stop. That instrument is precious to her, more precious than her life. She insists that it's not hard to see it isn't a weapon. Ark studies her expression. Maybe she's right. Maybe it's harmless. Or maybe, he thinks, she could still be a spy pretending to be a musician. Determined to test her, Ark commands her to play. If she truly isn't a spy, she can prove it through music. But Masumi doesn't move. Her head remains lowered. Ark can't understand. She is being accused of espionage. She might not even leave this place alive, and yet she refuses the only chance she has to clear her name. Inside, Masumi trembles. Just play, she tells herself. But it isn't that simple. He doesn't understand how much that violin means to her. It's worth more than her life. Ever since that day, she hasn't been able to play with her whole heart. She doesn't even know why she plays anymore. And more than that, she knows she won't play for someone like him. Not for a man who treats her violin with such disregard, despite her fear. She makes it clear she is not going to play. Ark watches her in silence, his expression unreadable. What's with her? He wonders. This woman, she's not like any spy they have ever dealt with before. She had managed to slip into the very heart of their order, bypassing wards and guards alike, yet she didn't seem to bear any mark of magic or the aura of a trained spell user. He studies her with suspicion and intrigue, then asks for her name. She answers quietly, it's Masumi. Ark raises an eyebrow, thinking it an odd name, foreign to his ears. Still, if she is so determined not to play, then perhaps it's time to try a different approach. He takes a step forward. Masumi can sense his intent. She knows he's about to test her again, but before Ark can act, the door bursts open. One of his men rushes in, announcing that they have a problem and need him right away. Ark's expression darkens. He turns to Masumi, ordering her to stay right where she is and she'd better not move. He makes it clear that if she even thinks about ruining something, she will regret it. Outside, Ark strides down, doubting that whatever issue has arisen could be more important than dealing with a suspected spy. But Cass says, no, it's more important than that. The court musician is missing. Cass continues, explaining that it's not just a disappearance, it's as though she vanished entirely. The court musician, a performer whose art serves the empire itself, has gone without a trace. Night orders traditionally keep musicians for formal ceremonies, and theirs was no exception. Having at least one around was standard, almost sacred. According to the ordination team's report, the musician disappeared in the night. Her belongings are gone too, suggesting she ran away. But the timing couldn't be worse. The ordination ceremony is tomorrow, a ceremony that marks the official rise of new knights. It is a solemn, sacred rite where loyalty to the empire is sworn and sealed through music, the melody-binding vow to faith. Citizens from across the city come to witness it, to hear the performance that symbolizes unity and honor. And now, with the musician missing, everything stands at risk. The reputation of their entire order hangs in the balance. Ark listens. He asks, "She's still nowhere to be found?" Cass shakes his head. They are sweeping the area, but there's been no sign of her. No trail. She must have slipped away sometime in the middle of the night, when the guards weren't watching. Ark's voice grows cold. Of all times, why was Cass not watching? Cass explains that a cloaked mage had been caught trying to infiltrate the perimeter. He had to handle the situation himself. Ark suggests that perhaps they could find someone from the city to fill in for the missing musician. Vestafer is a large town, after all, but finding someone fit to perform under Ark's command? That seems unlikely. Still, they try. The order sets a generous offer to attract talent, but every time someone hears Ark's name, they refuse. One after another, they turn the offer down, claiming it would be too overwhelming an honor. Ark exhales sharply, so this, too, is his fault. Cass immediately backtracks. He wouldn't say that, but, truth be told, Lord Ark is rather extraordinary. The thought lingers with Ark for a moment, but then something else comes to mind: Masumi. The woman with the violin. Meanwhile, Masumi sits alone, her mind spinning. Just hours ago, she had thought she was dead. Now she's trapped in a place she doesn't understand, caught up in something far beyond her comprehension. She peeks cautiously through the door, realizing that escaping this fortress isn't even an option. She turns her attention to her violin, clutching it gently, relief washing over her when she sees that it's unharmed. This violin, it's her mentor's keepsake. He had died when she was still in middle school and left it to her in his will. Ever since that day, it's been the only instrument she has ever played. She can't imagine holding another. As long as she can keep this one with her, as long as she can still hear its beautiful tone, she doesn't care where she is. Her thoughts are interrupted as the door swings open. Ark stands there, his presence filling the room. He reminds her that she said she was a musician. To Masumi, it sounds more like he's imposing the title upon her than acknowledging it. She isn't even a professional, but the violin is hers. Ark points out coldly that if the instrument is hers, that means she can play it. With that, he declares his decision: she will perform at the knight ordination ceremony as the order's official musician. Masumi stares at him. She shakes her head, saying she doesn't want to. Ark grits his teeth and reminds her of her position. She is a detained, suspicious person, and her fate rests entirely in his hands. With a single word from him, she could be executed. Masumi flares in anger, shouting that he tried that same tactic earlier, and she still refused. Besides, if she's already dead, then threatening to kill her doesn't mean anything. Her words catch Ark off guard. Masumi, still trembling, insists that she meant exactly what she said. This is the afterlife, she tells him. She fell down the stairs at a station, then everything went black, and the next thing she knew, she was here. Then that blonde man grabbed her, and chaos followed. Ark stares at her, disbelief in his eyes. He asks if she even knows where she is. Masumi answers with certainty, "Of course, this is the afterlife." But Ark corrects her firmly. This is the Albark Empire, a real, recognized nation in the far north of the central continent. Masumi begins to tremble as his words sink in. Her gaze drifts toward the window, where the view confirms what he says: it's a kingdom alive and real. She realizes, with dawning horror, that she truly might be in another world. He admits that he had suspected something strange about her from the beginning: her sudden appearance, her strange manner of speech, and the Truth Circle's failure to identify her. Even now, he can't completely rule out espionage. They will conduct a full investigation later. But one thing he can say for certain: this is not the afterlife, and she is not dead. Then, his eyes narrow again. No matter how defiant she acts, her life remains in his hands. He repeats himself, his command absolute: Masumi will serve as his musician at the ordination ceremony. She stands frozen, terror flickering in her eyes. Masumi still can't quite believe this world she has found herself in. A knock sounds on her door. It's Cass. He informs her that it's time to head to the ceremony hall. She has been asked to perform in the knight ordination ceremony, stepping in for a musician who suddenly ran away. The situation had felt urgent, and without giving it much thought, she had agreed. The ordination ceremony is a sacred rite where young men stand before the supreme commander of the order. In pledging their loyalty to the empire, they are granted swords and shields and imbued with the power to fight magic. It marks their vow to live and serve as knights. As they walk, Masumi begins to wonder aloud whether a musician's role could truly be so vital in such a solemn event. She struggles to picture how music fits into something so martial and holy. Yet the truth is that the commander channels power into the knights through the ceremony, and to do so, he must be accompanied by a performing musician, one who provides the necessary blessing. Masumi questions why the previous musician would have fled. Perhaps, she suggests, the fee was too small. But Cass tells her that the musician was fully paid in advance. Then maybe, Masumi thinks, something happened to her family, but Cass quietly replies that they had chosen a performer with no relatives, precisely to avoid such complications. Her mind races. Could the job itself have been unbearably demanding? The way Cass falls silent answers her question. She looks at him closely, half joking that he should at least say something instead of acting so ominous. She says in exasperation, don't tell her this is one of those endless performances where she will go without food or water for 24 hours straight. Cass assures her that it lasts only about 30 minutes at most. Yet when she presses him to explain the true reason behind the musician's disappearance, he simply changes the subject, insisting they are running out of time and must quicken their pace. At last, they arrive at the grand hall where the ordination ceremony will take place. The space hums with energy and anticipation. Masumi's eyes catch on a young girl tugging her mother's sleeve, urging her to hurry so they won't lose their seats. Around them, knights exchange eager words. One marvels that the long-awaited day has finally come, another admits that he was so nervous last night he could barely sleep. Everywhere she looks, there is excitement and pride. The air feels charged, sacred, and alive. Masumi watches the faces of the soon-to-be knights, radiant with hope and determination, and a quiet unease stirs in her chest. With so many people placing their faith in this ceremony, she begins to wonder if she, of all people, is truly fit to serve as the musician for something so important. No matter how hard Masumi tries to play seriously, she still can't produce the same sound she once did before the international committee competitions. The memory of that perfection haunts her fingers, and now she is about to stand on stage again as if none of that mattered. Cass's voice breaks through her thoughts, informing her that they have arrived. Lord Ark is already inside, making final preparations. Everything is nearly complete, all that remains is the musician's final setup. Cass turns to her, asking if she needs anything before they begin. Time is short, but they will accommodate her however they can. Masumi can't help but give a small, wry laugh. The contrast between how they once treated her as a suspected spy and how deferential they are now is almost comical. So musicians are a big deal in this world after all, she thinks. She tells Cass that she's fine, she's not the type to sink just because she's standing alone. Cass asks again, gently, if she's certain. Masumi nods and says all she needs to know is where she'll be positioned on stage, when she should start playing, and how to end the performance. At that moment, Ark steps forward. He explains that it's manageable, he will guide her through everything. She simply needs to stand at the center of the altar and perform. When the blue light begins to shine, she should start playing. Once the last knight receives his light, she may end whenever she wishes. He then asks if everything is clear to her. Masumi stands in silence for a moment before blurting out the only thing that comes to mind, wow. Realizing how that sounds, she quickly adds that she meant his outfit, it suits him really well. She stumbles to clarify again, saying she meant that he actually looks nice in it. It's a bit flashy, though. She wonders aloud if it's his ceremonial uniform. Ark admits that it's not quite a full-dress uniform, though it's still uncomfortably stifling. Masumi questions what the difference is between this and a full dress. He replies that the full version has more decorations and is even heavier. She grins, saying she almost wants to see him in one now, especially since he seems to despise wearing them. Their light teasing continues until Cass, standing nearby, interjects with a faintly amused tone that the honor guard has it worse, their uniforms are even heavier. Both Masumi and Ark glance at him, and the moment makes Ark clear his throat quickly. In any case, he is glad the ceremony will proceed smoothly. Just yet, by some strange mix of luck and misfortune, they had managed to secure a musician, but she was an outsider, a suspicious newcomer who merely happened to possess an instrument. No one even knew if she was truly skilled. The chance of the day ending in failure still lingered in everyone's mind, and even success would not solve the deeper troubles the Knight Order faced. Suddenly, another knight appeared, announcing that it was time for them to proceed to the altar. The group made their way toward the grand hall, where rows of knights stood in perfect formation, awaiting the ceremony's beginning. As Masumi walked beside Cass, he quietly reached out his hand to her. She looked at him for a moment, then placed her hand in his. Yet deep down, she knew better than anyone that she wasn't the one they were truly waiting for. They hadn't sought her, only someone who could play. She was convenient, nothing more. And though she might claim to have no doubts about being here, it was a lie just like the one she told herself before the competition. She didn't know if she could truly give her all this time. But even so, she wanted to try. Her eyes drifted toward the audience, where she caught sight of a familiar face, the little girl she had seen earlier at City Hall. If there was anything she could do for all these people who had waited so long for this day, then maybe, just maybe, standing on this stage wasn't a mistake after all. Ark stepped forward, drawing his sword with solemn grace. His voice rang through the hall as he addressed those about to rise as knights. This is their blessing. Walk the path of rightful strength. Be brave, be loyal, be merciful. Stand with conviction. Defend their homeland, the weak, and the truth. The power he bestow upon them is both sword and shield, one to cut through corruption, the other to deflect evil and destroy malice itself. May each of them become a protector to all. With that declaration, the ceremony began. And at Ark's final word, Masumi lifted her violin. Her bow touched the strings, and a triumphant march filled the hall, a composition born to honor military grandeur, bold and brilliant in tone. She didn't know this world or its traditions, yet somehow her music fit perfectly. For a day like this, long awaited by so many, a day when knights rose with courage and purpose, the piece felt as though it belonged entirely to this moment. When the final note faded into silence, the hall erupted into thunderous applause. The people cheered for her, their voices rising like a wave of joy. Masumi stood frozen in astonishment. Even the little girl in the crowd was clapping with delight seeing this all. Masumi smiled brightly, freely, for the first time in what felt like forever. The main event of the day, the ordination ceremony, has concluded without incident. The procession moves through the streets, alive with festival-like revelry. The joy of the crowd is palpable, spilling into laughter, cheers, and song. Yet Masumi still has not played with all her heart. The moment she lowers her bow, she knows the truth that the trauma binding her, the reason she cannot give her all, will not fade so easily. And yet, even though her music was fractured, the people smiled. Some wept. Some even sang along. That truth strikes her harder than anything else. Foolishly, it gives her hope that perhaps someday, she will find the key to breaking this curse. When the ceremony ends, Ark instructs her to go with Cass to the jousting matches. Without hesitation, she refuses. She does not care what kind of tournament it is. After being on her feet all day, she is utterly exhausted. But Ark corrects her misunderstanding. She has not yet been fully cleared of suspicion. Espionage still hangs over her name. Aside from her musical ability, they know nothing of her origins or background. He cannot leave her unattended. Yet he must attend a formal dinner with the mayor, and bringing her along is out of the question. He insists that the jousting matches are a traditional event in this country, and she might as well try to enjoy them. Now, Masumi sits among the officials, watching the tournament unfold. The heat presses down relentlessly. Though there is some shade, the air feels heavy, and the crowd's energy is almost suffocating. The noise, the movement, the clamor, it all feels unbreakable. On top of that, she is not comfortable around Cass. Her first impression of him was dreadful. He is always so calm, so unreadable, and she has no idea how to speak to him. An awkward silence stretches between them until he remarks on her hunger. She realizes she has not eaten a single thing since the moment they all dragged her here. Cass apologizes for not noticing sooner and calls one of his knights, instructing him to fetch food from the stalls. He orders the knight to make it quick and to charge the expense to the garrison under his name. When the knight returns, he apologizes for keeping her waiting and glances around before asking where the knight captain is. Masumi immediately understands that by knight captain, he means Cass. She explains that the captain is currently with a high-ranking officer. The messenger nods in acknowledgement, sets the food before her, and hopes it will be to her liking. The smell of the food is incredible, warm, savory, and inviting. It's a grilled sandwich. She is just about to take her first bite when she notices that the knight who brought it is still standing there. Puzzled, she asks if he needs something. The knight hesitates, apologizing for his rudeness, and says he has a question for her. She nods, giving him permission to speak. He asks whether her contract with the Supreme Commander has already ended. The question confuses her. A contract? Perhaps he means an agreement to serve as a musician. But there was never any formal contract. She had only stepped in during an emergency when the real musician failed to appear. Still, she isn't sure whether she's even allowed to say that. Before she can respond, the knight continues, explaining that if her arrangement with the commander ended with the ceremony, he wished to speak with her before anyone else did. He adds that if she is not yet serving anyone exclusively, he hopes she will consider his offer. Then, to her utter astonishment, he kneels before her and asks if she would become his personal musician. Masumi can hardly process what is happening. Before she can gather her words, Cass appears behind them. He whispers as he reminds the knight that private negotiations with the musician are strictly forbidden. The knight hurriedly tries to explain that it isn't what it looks like, but Cass cuts him off and orders him to clarify for what reason he has chosen to defy a direct command from his own knight captain. The tension rises sharply, and Masumi instinctively steps in to calm them both down. She insists that it's nothing serious, that the knight merely brought her food, and they were simply chatting. It's really not a big deal. Cass studies her for a moment before giving a curt order for his subordinate to return to his seat. The entire situation leaves Masumi feeling uncomfortably awkward. On the field, the jousting match begins. The sound of hooves and clashing lances fills the arena. Seeing her yawn, Cass remarks quietly that he understands these matches can feel repetitive, but she should try to bear with it a little longer. The justs rely heavily on thrust-based techniques, and to the untrained eye, they probably all look the same. It's no wonder so many people repeat the same moves. But, he adds, there's another reason why this event matters. He gestures toward a section of the stands, drawing her attention to a group of elegantly dressed spectators. Those people, he explains, are nobles and merchant families from Vestafer. They have come not merely to enjoy the sport but to scout potential suitors to marry into their houses. Masumi blinks in surprise, trying to process what she's just heard. Wait, did Cass say the justs last for 7 days? Today is only the first, reserved for newly appointed knights. The event, he explains, is essentially a showcase to help families find promising young men to welcome into their houses. Masumi frowns at that, feeling a wave of disbelief. It sounds more like an auction than a tournament. To her, it's as if they're treating the knights like livestock up for acquisition. She can't help but wonder if the knights themselves are truly all right with being paraded like that. Cass answers calmly that many of them actually welcome the opportunity. For knights born as commoners, this is one of the few chances they'll ever have to marry into nobility. Masumi thinks about it for a moment, then admits to herself that it makes sense, even if she can't fully understand it. The ways of noble society will probably always remain a mystery to her. She can't help but wonder about Cass. Someone like him must be exceptionally strong and respected. She's certain he's had no shortage of arranged marriage offers. He seems well-liked, even admired, everywhere they go. Cass mentions that it's not that he hasn't received offers, but if he's honest, he would much rather have a personal musician than a spouse. That statement catches her off guard. A personal musician? She's been meaning to ask about that. She tells him that the night earlier had seemed oddly fixated on the idea, and others have brought it up too. But she doesn't understand what it really means. What exactly does it mean to have one? What's the connection between knights who fight to defend the nation and musicians who simply play music? Cass exhales. For someone like her, with that talent, he says, it's surprising she doesn't already know. But before he can explain further, a strange noise echoes across the tournament grounds, sharp, distant, and alarming. Cass immediately announces that all scheduled matches are suspended. A high alert has been declared. The 4th Night Division is mobilizing for a beast extermination. The whole crowd grows tense, unease rippling through them as the distant roars echo beyond the walls. The outer defenses are still holding for now, but the fear in everyone's eyes says they know it may not last. A little girl near the front begins to tear up, clutching at her mother's skirt, but the woman kneels beside her, assuring her in trembling tones that the knights will keep them safe. Cass's voice cuts through the rising panic. He commands all knights to prepare for Type 1 combat deployment. He asks if everyone is fully equipped, and one of the knights answers that they have enough supplies for the moment, but if this drags on, that might change. Cass wastes no time. He orders that anyone without a mount take one from the tournament stables, then demands to know the type of beasts approaching and their estimated numbers. Masumi watches all this unfold. She doesn't understand exactly what's happening, but she knows enough to realize this is a full-blown emergency. She tells herself she just needs to stay out of the way, to not interfere. Yet before she can retreat, Cass grabs her arm sharply. He tells her she's coming with him. He points to continue monitoring her until her experience status is fully cleared as a direct order from Lord Arkansas. Masumi is shocked, unable to believe he's serious. But soon enough, she finds herself seated behind him on a horse, being taken straight into the chaos of a beast fight. Cass issues his next command swiftly, his voice steady even amid the rising din. He orders his knights to hold the line until Lord Ark arrives. Units 1 through 3 are to form the front. The estimated target, he says grimly, is around 300 wolves. His final command is clear: thin their numbers as much as possible. The battle erupts in a flurry of movement and sound. The knights clash with the oncoming horde. Masumi can only watch, as she realizes how quickly the knights are falling. They're dropping like flies, their formation beginning to crumble. The defensive line won't hold much longer at this rate, they'll all be overrun. She turns to Cass, asking why they're only defending. Shouldn't they use powerful magic, something to push back? Cass replies through gritted teeth that they would if they could. But this, he says, is what it means to be without a personal musician. Masumi blinks, confused, the words barely registering before a massive wolf lunges toward them. She freezes, instinctively closing her eyes, certain that this is the end, that she's about to die. But when she opens her eyes again, she's still alive. The world feels eerily still for a moment until she notices Cass lying beside her on the ground. Panic floods her chest. She calls out to him, but he doesn't respond. She understands. He's out of mana. He used magic to shield her. The realization hits her like a blade to the gut. He could have died because of her. His grim, unconscious expression tells her how close he might have come to losing his life. He dragged her along even though she couldn't fight, just so she wouldn't be left behind. And now, he's suffering for it. Her mind reels with guilt and memory. Someone's suffering again because of her. It's just like before. She remembers being 14, clutching her violin, and the one who always supported her through everything. Her gentle mother who never stopped smiling no matter how hard life became, passed away when Masumi was still young. While she was still grieving that loss, her mother's old friend, a strict yet kind-hearted violin teacher, became her anchor. He was stern in his lessons but cared deeply for his students, and for Masumi, he became something close to family. Yet fate was merciless once again. That same year, he too passed away after a long struggle with pneumonia and old age. Masumi had nearly given up on the violin more times than she could count, but every time she tried to walk away, she found herself holding back because of the violin her teacher had left behind. That instrument had become her final thread of connection to the people she'd lost. Then came her best friend, her fellow dreamer, someone who shared her hope of one day standing on a grand stage, chasing the same future with the same passion. They were supposed to reach that dream together. But then her best friend died too. Masumi's voice trembles as she calls out Cass's name. Tears blur her vision. She cries that if there is anything she can do, he must tell her. She can't fight like everyone else, but if there's something, anything that only a musician can do, then he needs to say it now. Cass's tells her that there is something he wants her to play. If she can perform, he can restore his mana. That's what a musician is for. She helps Cass to his feet, though his strength is barely holding. He asks where she's taking him. She answers that she saw someone carrying what looked like a violin case. They need to go. Every musician needs an instrument to play, after all. Back in the town, a man and woman stand together, alarmed by the distant clamor. The man wonders what that sound is. It's growing louder by the second. Before either can move, Masumi rushes toward them, calling out to the girl. The young woman turns and recognizes Masumi instantly, the stranger from the ordination ceremony. Masumi apologizes for bursting in like this, but her eyes are desperate as she gestures toward the case in the woman's hands. She asks if what she's holding is an instrument, and if she might take a closer look. The woman opens the box for her. Inside rests a villard. It looks remarkably like a violin, the same elegant curves, the familiar bow, the polished wood, but something about it feels different. Its size and shape are slightly off, and she can't yet tell what its tone or range might be. She asks the woman if she is a musician too, but the lady shakes her head. She only owns the instrument, she can't play it. Masumi knows how sudden and selfish her request must sound, but she pleads anyway. She asks if she can borrow the villard, just for a short while. Someone's life depends on it. she explains Cass's mana is nearly depleted, and if she doesn't act now, the wolves will overrun them all. She can't just stand by and watch more people die in front of her. The woman allows her to use it. Masumi thanks her and carefully takes the villard. She turns back to Cass and tells him that she's ready. She asks him to forgive her if she isn't as good as she was during the ceremony. Then, with a deep breath, she raises the bow and begins to play Vittoria Montis. The melody flows through the air. After her mother, teacher, and best friend all passed on to the next world, she had told herself it wasn't her fault. And yet, she never stopped blaming herself. She had felt useless, powerless, unable to save them, even though they had worried for her until their final breaths. She still can't forgive herself for surviving when they didn't. But now, at the very least, she can give her all to what she can do to this moment. When the final note fades, she lowers the bow and turns her gaze toward Cass, silently asking if he is all right. He opens his eyes, and confirms that his mana is completely restored. Awe fills his face as he looks at her, realizing that he had never imagined this day would come. In a rare gesture, he kneels before her, offering his sincere gratitude, acknowledging that her performance was truly beautiful and that he owes her his life. For a fleeting moment, happiness warms the air between them. But it does not last. A deep rumbling rises from the distance. The wolves have returned. The barrier has been breached. She turns to Cass, asking what they should do now, but before he can respond, a commanding voice cuts through the chaos. That it is Lord Arkansas. He surveys the battlefield, commending them for containing the damage so far and instructing them to leave the rest to him. And just like that, Ark wipes out all the wolves. Cass calls out to him, and Ark turns, asking what he is doing in such a situation, remarking that he must have had a rough time. Cass replies that it is fine. Ark then inquires about the current situation and the beasts, and Cass reports that they have taken out half the herd, but at a heavy cost. Many soldiers are down, with perhaps only 30% still combat ready. Ark deems it more than enough. His tone sharpens as he commands the troops, all wounded, are to fall back and guard the rear, securing civilians and reporting any emergencies immediately. Those still able to move or cast are to regroup into squads and follow him. The knights respond with unwavering resolve. Masumi watches, utterly taken aback. Just his presence seems to change everything. The chaos, the fear, all of it steadies simply because Ark is there. But when he calls out to her, it nearly jolts her out of her skin. He orders her to stay behind the lines with Cass, promising to end this quickly. Then, before turning away, he adds a quiet word of thanks for playing for Cass. The battle ends swiftly. The magical beasts that stormed the jousting grounds are completely eradicated, not a single one left standing. Later, back at the mansion, a maid politely inquires whether the meal was to Masumi's liking. Masumi answers that it was delicious. The maid smiles and tells her not to hesitate if she needs anything else, commenting that musicians are treated differently in this household. She shows Masumi to her room, wishing her a pleasant rest and reminding her she can call if she needs anything. Inside, Masumi freezes. Ark is there. He glances at her expression and dryly asks what that face is for. She retorts that the question should be hers. What is he doing here? Ark replies that this is his room to begin with. It's not as though he wanted to share it, but he cannot exactly leave a suspected spy alone. He gestures for her to stop standing there and come sit down already. He hands her the violin. She remarks in surprise that he had been holding on to it for her. Ark corrects her technically. The garrison commander returned it in person. Masumi is taken aback. The garrison commander, someone of such importance, personally handled her instrument? Ark shrugs, saying that the man's rank is below his and not worth fussing over. Masumi finds their ranking system strangely skewed. Ark adds that Willard is his personal musician. If that instrument had even been scratched, heads would have rolled. Masumi is bewildered by how extreme everything he says sounds. As she studies him, she notices the fatigue in his face, the weight in his shoulders. She hesitantly asks if he is hurt or simply exhausted because he looks truly worn out. Perhaps, she suggests, he should get some rest. Ark closes his eyes and quietly orders her to play for him. If she is willing to acknowledge their efforts and accomplishments as knights, then perhaps she could play one song for them. Masumi frowns, confused. Why talk about acknowledging accomplishments all of a sudden? He isn't making any sense. Ark concedes with a faint smile that she is right. It's nonsense. He must be more tired than he thought. He turns toward his bed and says another room has been prepared next door for her, and she can stay there. As he moves to lie down, Masumi calls out to him. She insists that she can at least listen. He turns, his expression unreadable, and she continues. After everything that happened today, she has realized how different she is from all of them. She doesn't understand beasts or magic or this world at all. But even if she cannot understand, she can still listen to someone who is hurting. He called her a spy, threatened her, and yet when he stood before those beasts, he fought with everything he had for the knights, for the people. Someone like that. She wouldn't mind hearing him out a little. Ark regards her quietly for a long moment before a faint smirk softens his face. He says she is really something. And then, perhaps because she insists, he begins to speak. In this country, he tells her, there exist two distinct forces, the Knight Orders, who specialize in defensive magic, and the Magic Corps, who excel in offense. Normally, knights act as shields, protecting the mages, while the mages serve as spears, striking down threats. But their Knight Order his own can no longer function as a true shield. Masumi asks what he means. Ark explains that to be a proper shield, a knight requires a steady supply of magical energy. Yet their order has no musicians. They have pleaded with the crown countless times, but musicians are always assigned to the Magic Corps first. None ever reach the Knight Orders. Without magical restoration, their ranks have become the kingdom's disposable pawns. They've accepted that death may come at any moment. That is their reality. But they are still human. No one wants to die for nothing. He admits that saying all this to her probably won't change anything. But before he can continue, he realizes she has begun to play. He blinks and asks if she's really playing. She replies lightly that if sound comes out, it counts as a performance. He watches her fingers move and murmurs that she is truly skilled. Masumi smiles faintly and says she has been playing since she was little. He seems surprised after all that time, even though she is not a professional. She answers that it's because she loved it, loved improving, loved learning. Every day flew by too fast. She used to wish she could play forever. Ark repeats her words softly. She loved it. Then, almost to himself, he adds that he understands. He became a knight for the same reason, because he loved this country. Because he wanted to protect it. The nation that gave him life, and its people. He wanted to keep them safe. His voice trembles. Tears spill down his face. Masumi, without fully understanding why, moves closer. In that moment, all she feels is a quiet, aching wish to stay beside him. She gently embraces him, holding him as he weeps, and whispers her gratitude that he told her all of this. The next day, Ark is the one to ask if Masumi is requesting new clothes. She admits that she has been wearing the same outfit for days and can no longer bear it. She clarifies quickly that she isn't asking for anything fancy or expensive, only some simple, everyday clothes. When they go shopping, a group of ladies assists her, presenting several dresses and commenting that the vibrant colors and elegant designs are all the latest fashion. Masumi admires them sincerely and thanks Ange for helping her choose. It was Ark who introduced her to Ange, explaining that when it came to selecting women's clothing, she would need a woman's opinion. Ange, as it turns out, is the lady of the house where they are currently staying. Masumi also learns that the manor doesn't actually belong to the Knight Order, as she had assumed from how openly Ark used it. Ange tells her that her family lends the estate to the order every year for the ordination, and the musicians usually stay there as well. Hearing this, Masumi realizes that Ange must have met other musicians before. She asks as much, and Ange confirms it softly. Masumi senses a strange tension, wondering if inviting Ange out so suddenly had been a bother. It feels as though her company is making the woman nervous. More than that, Masumi cannot shake the feeling that she has met Ange somewhere before. Ark, waiting nearby, gives an impatient scoff, asking if she still isn't finished. Masumi retorts that if it annoys him so much, why has he followed her here in the first place? Ark responds curtly that it's not as though he wanted to. He has already told her a dozen times that she is still under suspicion. She points out that if he finds it such a nuisance, he could have sent Cass instead. Ark counters that Cass is supervising the joust today and has no time to look after her. Masumi thinks to herself that Ark had been quiet and oddly gentle when he cried the previous night. Neither of them has brought up what happened, and she doesn't want things to become awkward. At the counter, after the shopping is done, the clerk asks Ark to sign the receipt. As he does, Masumi asks Ange if that's the payment. Ange explains that it's actually an approval form. The expenses will later be sent to the 4th Knight Order in the imperial capital. Then she adds that it's around mealtime, suggesting they eat before visiting the next shop. Masumi turns to Ark, asking if they may. He simply replies that he has no objection. Soon, they are seated outside a restaurant, enjoying a delicious meal. Ange checks that they are comfortable dining outdoors, and Masumi smiles, saying that it's fine, the weather is pleasant, and the open air feels relaxing. Thanks to Ange, the shopping had gone smoothly, and she had even brought them to such a wonderful place to eat. Ange shakes her head, insisting that it's no exaggeration to say that Masumi saved her and that she wanted to repay the kindness somehow. Masumi is puzzled and asks what she means. Ange explains that when the beasts attacked the previous day, Masumi's performance had saved everyone. Suddenly, the memory clicks. Masumi realizes where she's seen her before. Ange had been the one who lent her the instrument. Ange nods and tells her that she had been on her way back from collecting her sister Willard's repaired violin when she stumbled upon the chaos. She wanted to thank Masumi that day but didn't believe someone like her could be of any help. Masumi frowns at the phrase "someone like her." Ange hesitates before admitting that she feels like a burden, useless to her family and her house. Her older sister works outside the home, contributes, and earns their respect, while she does nothing of value. The family hosts the musicians each year, but they are never satisfied with her efforts. She's often scolded, and she has come to think of herself as good for nothing. Masumi understands now why Ange had been so timid and cautious around her. She had always tried to avoid angering anyone, sinking deeper into the belief that she was worthless. But then, seeing Masumi stand up yesterday and say she was done just watching helplessly, it had moved her. Masumi shakes her head firmly, telling Ange that it isn't true. She was only able to perform because Ange lent her that instrument. Without it, things could have gone terribly wrong. So if anything, Masumi is the one who should be thankful. Even today, Ange has helped her so much. She tells her gently that she is not a good-for-nothing at all. Ange's eyes fill with tears, and she whispers her thanks. Not long after, a maid rushes up, slightly breathless, informing Ange that her master has requested her presence. The manor's guest has arrived. Ange looks regretful, saying they are still shopping, but Masumi assures her that it's fine, they have gotten almost everything, and she and Ark can handle the rest. Ange apologizes again and departs in a hurry. When Masumi turns back, Ark is glaring at her as though he might devour her whole. He mutters that he thought she was the detached type at first, but she is surprisingly soft-hearted, yesterday with Cass, and now with Ange. She keeps sticking her nose into everyone's business. Masumi scoffs that it isn't that serious, she just listened to someone for a bit. It's not about kindness or pity. She simply can't leave people alone when they're hurting. A girl pushed to the edge of society, losing her sense of worth. It all feels a little too familiar to her. The conversation breaks off when shouts echo through the street, someone yelling about beasts. Ark's head snaps up, disbelief flashing across his face. It's impossible, he had completely eradicated that pack of wolves. How could any have slipped through the city barrier? He orders Masumi to stay where she is and promises to return quickly. Without another word, he rushes off, leaving her alone. In the confusion, someone bumps into her, knocking her to the ground. The man leans down immediately, offering his hand and asking if she's all right. She apologizes, flustered, but he insists that it was his fault. As she steadies herself, he looks at her closely and exclaims that she must be the Supreme Commander's musician. He had attended the ordination yesterday and found her performance magnificent. Without pause, he starts flooding her with questions. What knight had she performed with before? He had heard that the Supreme Commander's order had been struggling, but with her, he is now as strong as 100. He even jokes that if they had met her sooner, the 4th Knight Order might have functioned properly, fighting as a true shield instead of serving as the kingdom's expendable tools. Now, with her, people could finally relax. The words ignite anger in Masumi. She lashes out, telling him that perhaps the 4th Knight Order hadn't been able to fight at full strength, but even in that state, they gave everything they had. Speaking of them like that, doesn't he think it's unfair? The man blinks, then quickly agrees that he went too far and apologizes. Still, he insists, with her, the knights truly are 100 times stronger. Leaving such an important musician alone like this, clearly Ark is neglecting his duty. Masumi stares at him, a strange recognition dawning in her mind. That face, she's seen it before. But before she can place it, her vision and she collapses forward. The man catches her easily, a cold gleam in his eyes. He murmurs to himself that Ark should never have let something so precious slip from his hands.